already coughing. Hello. Welcome to Daily Faded. This is where we get faded daily and talk about the news and politics of the day. But I got to tell you, I'm already a little stoned because I have been watching the Republican National Convention, or as they call it, the RNC Convention. So I guess it's the Republican National Committee Convention, I guess is what they call it. Either that or their graphics don't make any sense. Before I get to the Republican National Convention and before I get to coronavirus update for the day, I want to talk about Jacob Blake, who was shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin last night after breaking up a fight on the side of the road. He was walking to his car and the cop put his gun point blank range to Jacob Black's back and fired 7 bullets into Jacob Blake. I keep saying Black. Jacob Blake kept firing. He kept firing 7 times right into his back. I don't know how many more times we have to see these videos. I mean, this was like some Jesse James shit. This is a cop who thinks he's Jesse James. You know, shooting a man dead in the street, shooting him in the back. But it's not that. That implies some kind of romantic heroism. The hero of the outlaw, and that's not what's going on. It is really simple. They do not, hey YouTuber Grudge, how you doing? Good to see you back. They do value black life. They don't value black life. So they just take it willy-nilly. I'm watching something on Netflix, The Man in the High Castle. All right. Another situation that's fucked. Tell us more, YouTuber Grudge. So I'm watching this Amazon show. I'm not proud of the fact that I'm watching something on Amazon because I do hate Amazon. But I'm watching this show, The Man in the High Castle, and in it, it's 1962, and America lost World War II, and the Midwest, South, and East Coast are Nazi Germany, and the West Coast is Japanese states, Japanese colonies, whatever. And both of them are fascistic societies, and they make a big deal out of the fact that the cops can just shoot you whenever they want to. And I look at that and I go, and you're telling me that the America that I live in is so much better? Cops go around shooting people whenever they want to all the time. It is a fascist paradise. So I'm running out of words. I feel angry, desperate. I feel desperate, you know, not for myself, obviously, because I have a ton of white male, straight cis privilege. You know, I have all the fucking privilege in the world, although I have been an exploited worker before, but putting that aside, I have all the privilege in the world, but I'm worried about other people. I'm worried about black people. I'm worried about people of color. I'm worried about women. I'm worried about LGBTQ community, and especially trans people who didn't get any representation at the DNC last week, or at least not that I saw. I wanted to read a statement released this was tweeted by the Movement for Black Lives. The shooting of Jacob Blake by Kenosha PD is unacceptable. Our hearts are with him and his family. Kenosha PD and court systems continue to show a blatant disregard for black life, as they did with Crystal Kaiser. Crystal Kaiser, a black teen girl who was assaulted and trafficked by a white man, was arrested and charged with a life sentence for defending her life. Now, Jacob Blake, a black man, was nearly killed for stopping harm in his community. This kind of state-sanctioned violence against black communities is exactly why defunding the police became a rallying cry for millions of black people and our allies across the globe during the unprecedented protests in defense of black life this summer. While our movement has forced important progress across the country, too many police departments continue to be rewarded for deadly behavior with outsized budgets that allow them to operate with impunity. Carissa Lewis, National Field Director of the Movement for Black Lives. I just wanted to read that because I felt like her voice said it the best. YouTuber Grudge. I have a friend that was like, BLM, what about my brother? Well, shit, of course the police are corrupt. We need to worry about everyone now. We do need to worry about everyone now. Because if you think that they're not going to come for ideological enemies next, they will. They certainly will. They'll start painting Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kulinski as Antifa. And the rest of the left will laugh until it comes for them. Yes, watching the Republican National Convention makes you have a bleak outlook on the world. Speaking of bleak outlooks, our coronavirus update for the day, the worldwide case totals for coronavirus as of today are 23.7 million cases. Yes, they have in a lot of ways. YouTuber Grudge. Look at them. I mean, they went after fucking Chapo Trap House. It's ridiculous. The world is up to 816,000 deaths. In the United States, we're at 5.9 million cases with around 40,000 today. And we're at 181,000 deaths with about 547 today. California, we've got 675,000 cases now with 17 reported today. That's a big number. The overall number for the country is down, but that number for California is a very big number. We have seen some big numbers in California, which is weird because I know that the rate of the positivity rate in Los Angeles County has gone down. I agree with you, YouTuber Grudge. You're right. This shit is happening during a global pandemic. And 57% of Republicans think that 170,000 coronavirus deaths is acceptable. In a new poll that just came out, I believe today or yesterday, maybe it was yesterday, 57% of Republicans think the death toll of coronavirus is acceptable. Never underestimate the power of propaganda and indoctrination, because people who think that are indoctrinated. I'm just going to go straight. I had some things I wanted to say about Joe Biden, but I'm going to go straight to the Republican National Convention because it was absolutely out of this world. Yes, yes, vomiting indeed. The Republican National Convention was supposed to be, this is what we were being told yesterday and today. We were being told that it's going to put forward a positive vision for the future and a positive vision of America, which, how is it possible for them to put forward a positive vision when we have 170,000 dead from coronavirus, when 30 million Americans are facing eviction, 20 million Americans are unemployed, 1 out of every 5 children is hungry. It's devastation. It's dystopia. But they're going to go with rah, rah, America great, and what a great job Trump did. But my big question is, can they convince people? Can they somehow rewrite history? Can they make it seem as if Donald Trump did do a great job, you know. Can they lie to people to their face? Can they gaslight them? They know people who are unemployed. They know people who are being evicted. They know people who are being foreclosed on. They've lost money. They're getting paid less. And then they hear the Republicans say what a great job Trump did. They keep referring to the great economy that Trump built, which of course is lies, because Trump's economy is not as good as Obama's economy. But there's a great little argument going on in chat right now. And I agree with you, YouTuber Grudge. We don't accept history being rewritten. But all they can do is gaslight. That's all they can do is gaslight, because they can't acknowledge the depth of the problems. They cannot acknowledge the amount of hurt and suffering across America right now. They cannot acknowledge how desperate people feel economically. So I was curious about this. And how can they portray the country as being well when 70% of Americans feel that the country is on the wrong track? That's one of the highest wrong track numbers ever. And Trump's approval is a little bit under 44%, according to the RCP poll average. So how are they going to convince people that Trump's America is a great America that we need more of? Gaslighting is what abusers do. And I'm really not sure that George Soros funded the Wuhan labs. And even if he did, I don't really care. So they brought out the average Americans, just like the Democrats did. Before I even get into that, I have to make a note on the visual appeal of the Democratic National Convention versus the lack of visual appeal of the RNC. The RNC is they've got a camera in a hall. I don't know if it's in the White House, or I don't think it was in the White House, some hall in DC someplace. And all of the speakers are speaking from the podium in this hall. They're speaking to a large empty hall with a lot of American flags behind them. And they keep going back to the same thing over and over and over again. Whereas with the Democrats, every time someone was speaking, they were speaking from a different location, and everyone tried to do something special with where they were speaking from. So it was kind of interesting. It was kind of, I was more interested in what Bill Clinton's home looked like than hearing from Bill Clinton. I wasn't particularly interested in what his home looked like either, but putting that aside, there was just much more visual dynamism to the DNC. Operation Timber Sycamore unleashed Islamic fascism on the world. All right, QAnon is real, and I'm sure you're really sorry about that. Anyway, so it's just so boring, and the videos are so flat. The Republican videos are so flat that it's just not nearly as interesting visually. It's not nearly as compelling. So they had some average Americans talking to the camera, very cult-like stares, staring at the teleprompter as they're reading. A deranged teacher who talked about how teachers' unions have betrayed America's teachers, that unions deceive America's teachers. They're subverting our democracy. Teachers' unions are subverting our democracy. And our populace must be educated and moral for democracy to work. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I should be kinder. I know. But it's just the things that come out of their mouths are so hard to believe that they would say these things. Except for, of course, the fact that, all right, you're trolling like a champ there, Hein Vanda. But As YouTuber Grudge said, thank you for your input. Hold on one second. Anyway, sorry about that. I just got distracted by the chat, which is going too fast for me to keep up with right now, in part because I'm stoned. And then they had video of Trump talking to frontline workers in the White House, sort of massaging his belly. And it wasn't really massaging it, but it was hanging out. And he asked a janitor what she does. He doesn't know what a janitor does. There was another nurse. There was a nurse who spoke, who portrayed Trump as having been the great savior from the pandemic. But again, they all have this cult-like stare as they're reading the teleprompter, and it's creepy. It's creepy. The Republican Party is creepy. Maybe that's because it's a death cult. You know, and again, this whole thing about painting a positive portrait of America tonight, and all they kept doing was talking about anarchy in Democrat cities. Matt Gaetz came out. He was totally creepy. He said, "We won the West and we own the stars." He was drunk on American exceptionalism. Just a tool of the empire, this guy. Just a tool of the empire. So full of white supremacist pride. And he looks like he could be played by a young Jim Carrey, with big teeth, Obama did do a lot of shit, and I won't defend him either, but Heinvada, you're lucky that I don't know how to just ban you, because I would just block you. But you keep doing what you're doing. Anyway, Matt Gaetz said there's no refuge for freedom should we fail. There's no refuge for freedom if the Republicans fail. It's so laughable on the face of it. Of course, everyone was completely rewriting the history on the coronavirus. Soon we will emerge safer, stronger, and greater than ever. Soon we will emerge safer, stronger, and greater than ever. So implicit in that is that right now, we're not so safe, we're not so strong, we're not so great. But soon, reelect me and I'll get you there. I couldn't be there in time for the election, but oh God. I actually thought Joyanne Reid, or I think she's going by Joy Reid now, I don't know, had an interesting tweet that I'd happened across. I don't follow Joyanne Reid. But she made an interesting point. The tweet is, "It's interesting to watch them create a pageantry about the Trumps. This isn't about the Trumps as like people with family and friends and loved ones. It's about them as our American monarchical entity that you cannot eliminate." That is very true. Fuck the police state. And fuck Matt Gaetz. She's absolutely right about that. Of the 12 main speakers, half of them are Trump family members. Donald Jr., Eric, and the other ones. The First Lady, Melania, and the other daughter that we never hear from, whatever her name is. Everyone all night long has been pushing school choice. And I'll bring that one up again a little bit later. Mark and Patty McCloskey, the St. Louis couple who pointed guns at Black Lives Matter protesters who were peacefully walking by their houses. These people are deranged lunatics who are a threat to society since they see people doing nothing violent and nothing threatening at all. They just see black people, so they take out their guns. Well, they did a good, fair amount of fear mongering. Oh, God. It's dripping with white supremacy. It's just the whole night is dripping with white supremacy. And what's amazing is that there are some speakers who managed to get away from that later on. But it would be like, here's a black person saying some great things about Republicans, and then here's a white supremacist. They called Cori Bush a Marxist revolutionary without naming her, which I thought was, yay, Cori Bush. And they actually showed her picture. They showed Cori Bush as the evil Marxist revolutionary at the RNC. I'm so proud of Cori. I wish I knew her and I could text her and tell her how proud I was of her. But it's so ridiculous to talk about the guy who wrote the 1994 crime bill as the guy who's going to unleash, oh God. Sorry, the chat. That this guy who wrote the 1994 crime bill, who made mass incarceration what it is today, this guy who was all about the three strikes law, this guy who talked about super predators and said, I don't care where they came from. He said something to this effect: I don't care where they came from. I don't care what their sob story is. I just care about whether or not they're going to come at my mother in the street with a brick. Something like that. That was a close approximation. Actually, it was probably nothing like that at all. But that was the general gist of what he said on that particular quote. Anyway, it's just ridiculous, and I don't think, it is true that it is true. I just spilled some ash, which is not good. It is true that defunding the police does not poll that high, but Black Lives Matter polls extremely high now. So I really need to get to Nikki Haley and Tim Scott, excuse me. Oh my God. I've done that twice. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so I have to mention Kimberly Guilfoyle, who gave a powerful speech full of lies and distortions that made her seem like a lunatic. She was shit-talking California and called California a land of discarded heroin needles. She was shouting like really loud. So I never really spoke about Joe Biden's speech last week. I talked about it a little bit on Thursday night, but I hadn't seen the whole speech because it went over into the 8 o'clock hour. And so I watched it. I actually watched it after I live stream on Thursday night. And I think he did a decent job. I think Joe Biden did a good job. And one of the things that was that worked well in the speech was that towards the end, he got more impassioned and he started to raise his voice, and he was talking like he was talking to a big audience by the end. Kimberly Guilfoyle, by comparison, was screaming as if she was talking to, I don't know what, like 100,000 people, chanting for blood. It was deranged. She was just deranged. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, and she's, oh God. Oh. And everything she was saying was such bullshit, They want to destroy this country. They want to enslave you to the weak, dependent, liberal, victim ideology. That is psychotic. That is psychotic, and it couldn't be less true. They accuse the Democrats of having a victim ideology, right? Some sort of pathology of victimhood in the Democratic Party. I'm sorry, Republicans don't get to accuse Democrats of a victim ideology when their fucking leader is Donald Trump. Is there a bigger victim in the world than Donald Trump, who cries every fucking day? He cries about how mean people are being to him. He's the biggest goddamn victim. He's a victim of the mainstream media. He's a victim of the China virus. He's a victim of the radical left. He's a victim of the deep state in the fucking FDA. He's a victim of the FBI. He's a victim of NATO. He's a victim of illegal immigrants. Come on. They did squeeze in an awesome scare video of scary, evil Bernie Sanders, where they colored it to make him look a little bit more monstrous. Kyle Kulinski tweeted, "Just give Trump every second of the RNC and a mountain of cocaine like he's Tony Montana. This is what we all want to see anyway." I don't know if I want to see that, Kyle. I don't know if I agree with that. Anyway, I'm not going to talk much about Donald Trump Jr. because he's a tool. But I do want to talk a little bit about Nikki Haley, and I want to talk about Tim Scott. Nikki Haley gave a powerful speech, and she actually undid a lot of the kind of white grievance politics that we had seen from other people earlier in the evening, like the McCloskey couple. She's probably the most effective communicator in the Republican Party, and this woman is a serious contender for president in 2024. And if it was Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden, we would all be in deep trouble. That said, I imagine a Nikki Haley presidency would have the technocratic skill, would not be quite the complete and total mess that Donald Trump's is. But I don't know. I don't live in South Carolina, so I can't tell you what kind of a governor she was. Regardless, she spoke about the Democrats always blaming America first. She talked about her and the president standing up for America. Obama and Biden bad on Iran, North Korea, and Israel. Look, a lot of it was typical stuff, but she made a very bold statement, a very clear statement of where she's coming from, that America is not a racist country. And she told the story of growing up as a brown girl in a black and white world, as an immigrant child growing up in South Carolina. And she acknowledges that they saw some discrimination or prejudice against them. But then she talked about how much they had managed to achieve and how much she's managed to achieve. And I'm waiting for the answer to that question too. What is freedom to you? So she was very good. She said, we value, and then of course she did something which was rhetorically clever, but disgusting at the same time. Quote, we value and respect every black life. The black cops who have been shot in the line of duty, they matter. The black small business owners who have watched their life's work go up in flames, they matter. The black kids who have been gunned down on the playground, their lives matter too. And she just fucking erased George Floyd, and she erased Jacob Blake, and she erased Breonna Taylor, and she erased Stephon Clark, and the list goes on and on. Philando Castile, she erased all of them. All of them. It's not about them. Why are they always talking about the ones who got killed by cops? Why are they talking about that? What about the black business owner? There are not a lot of black business owners who lost businesses in the so-called rioting this summer. The damage that was done in the 94 riots, I'm sorry, was it 94? No, it was 92. In the 92 riots in LA, there was so much more damage in one city than all of the damage in all of the cities in America. If someone wants to fact check me on that, I believe that's right. Anyway, Nikki Haley is able to put forward a conservative vision for America in a way that feels like it is inclusive. And I think that is dangerous and scary because the Democrats are so committed to identity politics. And I don't mean to cancel, so to speak, identity politics. I think there's a place for it. But the Democrats are so focused on identity politics that someone like Nikki Haley, someone like Tim Scott, they come along and they create an inclusive picture for the Republican Party. And you just have to wonder what happens. You know, is the Republican Party too racist and too far gone so that a Nikki Haley and a Tim Scott can never be elected president in the Republican Party? I don't know. I don't know. Or are they exactly the facelift that the Republican Party will need after 4 years of Donald Trump or 8 years of Donald Trump? There's a wonderful debate going on in chat right now. I highly endorse it. I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump Jr. because I don't want to talk about him. He's a tool. I want to talk about Tim Scott, and it's the last thing I'm going to talk about tonight. Tim Scott, this is going to be difficult to do, but I'm going to smoke one more time before I talk about Tim Scott. Much like Nikki Haley, Tim Scott was terrific. What a great speech he gave. He really painted a picture of a small government, pro-business America that works for everyone. I think he doesn't understand the way the world works. I don't think he understands what capitalism actually does and how capitalism creates division and how capitalism creates poverty. I don't think he understands any of those things, but I believe that he believes what he believes, and he's real about it. He's sincere. All of the sincerity, the ideological sincerity that is missing from Trump is there in great number with Tim Scott. He said, "Our nation always bends back towards fairness," referencing Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "We're always striving to be better, that we fall down sometimes, but we pick ourselves up and we do better." He said, "I believe in the goodness of America." You know, he's still a delusional Republican because he was talking about the tax breaks that single moms got. You know, when 83 or 87%, 83% of the tax bill went to the top 1%, people know they didn't get a tax cut. He said that single moms got a 70% tax cut. And then he went on the attack against Joe Biden, and he was extremely effective. Nikki Haley made me a little bit nervous. Again, I don't really care about Joe Biden winning, but I want Donald Trump to lose because I do despise Trump. I'm no fan of Biden, but I do despise Trump. But we got to keep it real. He quoted Biden saying, "Poor kids can be just as smart as white kids." And it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. Then he called out Biden on the crime bill, talked about Trump's criminal justice reform. Somehow Biden failed HBCUs. Trump funded HBCUs. Then he lied some more about taxes. This guy is a true believer in the conservative ideology. And again, he makes it sound incredibly appealing. He talked about his personal story and about how his grandfather was taken out of the third grade so that he could go pick cotton. And he said, "In one lifetime, my family went from cotton to Congress." And he's the only Black legislator to be elected to both the House and the Senate. Really super impressive guy and a real threat to Democrats in the future. I think that a lot of Democrats like to fantasize about Trump being the destruction of the Republican Party. Um, and it's a fantasy that I've engaged in at times. I'm very hesitant to do that when I see Nikki Haley and Tim Scott speak. I'm really surprised. I knew Nikki Haley would be passable at least, but she was very convincing. And these are young, up and coming Republican politicians who are able to at least create a sense of inclusion. Now, again, it's impossible to know whether or not someone who does that can actually win in the Republican Party. You know, will it always have to be old white men in the Republican Party? You know, I don't know. And what happens to that racist vote if you pursue someone like Tim Scott or someone like Nikki Haley? Do they come along? It's hard to imagine. Anyway, guys, I got to peace out because I'm sweating like a dog and I got to turn the air on. Have a good night. Make sure you hit subscribe and like and even notify. And I'll be back at 8 o'clock Pacific tomorrow night. Peace out.